Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to the top 10 WWE Superstars of all time. Just yesterday, I did the top 10 in-ring performers, which is an updated version of a list I did about 6 or 7 years ago. And same thing for this one. This is going to be an updated list of the top 10 WWE Superstars that I did 6 or 7 years ago. Some of the names have changed. Some of the names are in different spots. I took a new look at it. I looked at it closely and changed some things around. And maybe I was biased on a couple of people because of what I think about them and something like that. But now after 6 or 7 years have passed, I've now looked at it and said, okay, so these are the players that are there, and there's some new faces and some new names. I'll put the link up in the corner tab, or this one here, so that you can see, the old list if you want to look at that one, and then look at this new list. But as we said at that, let's go ahead and get into it. The top 10 WWE superstars of all time. Number 10, Charlotte Flair. She was not on this list obviously because she was just getting started in her career. But what she has done over the past 6 or 7 years, to put herself on this list is amazing. She's an incredible in-ring performer. She is a star. When they want somebody to go and do these things, they go to her. You know, she's one of the main ones that they go to. She is still elicits reactions, whether good or bad, from people. Like she said in her promo a couple weeks ago, they're either booing or they're wooing, and she is a fantastic character, and it is amazing to see what she has done over the past 6 years, and truly deserving to be on this list. Ahead of some people who are not on this list anymore, and I don't think that's a shame. I mentioned this in the in-ring superstar. I think she is the best in-ring performer out of the four horsewomen, and I do think that she is the biggest star out of the four horsewomen. Although I will admit that Becky Lynch could give her a definite run for her money when it comes to being a big star, and I think Becky Lynch is, she's probably in the top 10. And if I did this, list in, another 6 or 7 years, she may be even in the top 10 with Charlotte Flair. So, or maybe she supplants her. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But as I'm saying that, right now, Charlotte Flair is number 10 on the WWE Superstars of all time list. Number 9, Brock Lesnar. It's interesting. On the in-ring superstars list, Brock was 10, Flair was 9. On superstars list, Flair is 10 and Brock is 9. And I think Brock is 9 because he has more of the other combat type feel because he was in UFC. So the people from UFC know him, and they also, and they know his thing. Now, obviously, there are some issues going on right now with Brock Lesnar in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. He has allegedly been one of the names that have been outed as one of the people who was assaulting, I guess for lack of a better word, the young lady who was suing Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant. So, and because of that, he has not been around. And there are many people, myself included, that would like to see him, come back to WWE. Not because, you know, we have any, you know, that we don't believe Janelle Grant. At least I don't. Listen, it's a he said, she said that we'll never know who's telling the truth. We just won't. And I don't know if we should just, blindly believe either side, either way. That's just how I feel, not only about this case, but any case like this. That's a he said, she said, and you can't go to a jury to find out what exactly is the right answer. So, but anyway, I I think Brock is amazing. And I think that's only why he's number 9, because people continue to want Brock Lesnar to come back and to be a part of this greatness that the WWE is going to, this renaissance. And he could be a major part of this. And it's unfortunate that he is right now parked on the bench. But we'll wait and see. But I think he's totally deserving to be one of the top WWE superstars of all time. He's main evented WrestleMania. He's been, he's always a big box office attraction. He is, without a doubt, just a name in the business of professional wrestling that is known. And that's why he's on this list. Number 9, Brock Lesnar. Number 8, Randy Orton. Man, what can you not say about Randy Orton? It is amazing. He went down with a back injury that maybe was career-threatening. And he has come back, and he's come back bigger and better than ever. And it is great to see him around. It's great to see him here. I am very worried that, they are going to try to turn him heel for Cody in the near future. I hope that's not the case. He doesn't need to be a heel anymore. He can definitely be doing what he's doing right now, because right now he's getting his flowers. Even the people who thought maybe Randy Orton was quote-unquote boring, back in the past, have really embraced him since he's come back from his injury. And they actually kind of embraced him before then when he was tag teaming with Riddle. That you re-embrace him and you show that he is just truly an amazing player. The name. Now, Randy Orton not one of those people that does a lot of, he never have done these, like he doesn't go to day shows or doesn't go on Jimmy Fallon or anything like that. I think maybe he's done something like that maybe twice that I can remember, where he's going on somewhere to promote something for the WWE. And that's because when he was young, he was immature, so you couldn't count on him to just go on a show and make it there on time, or even go make it to the show or anything like that. I understand that. And I think now he just can't be bothered with it. When you have other people who are willing to do that, why not send them? Not send Randy Orton. But trust me, he's a known name in this business. Not because of his father, not because of his grandfather, because of himself. And he's a great superstar. Number 8, one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time, Randy Orton. Number 7, John Cena. Now this may shock a lot of people. Why is John Cena so low? Now on the other list I did, he was number 6. He's number 7. Now, to me, he is number 7 just because of maybe some of the things that have gone on. Now he's been a movie star, and he's been, all those things, right? And he's big time known. He joined the Fast and the Furious franchise just like The Rock, and he's been doing movies for the last, most of the last decade. So I'm still able to come back and maybe do a match here and a match there. He's known, but I think he's lower than a lot of these other guys, just because I think of the, maybe some of the backlash that he dealt with, that he's telling everybody about now. He dealt with for years, and of being what people maybe thought was overpushed and overutilized and a lot of other things, right? But don't get me wrong, he's still, as you can tell, a top 10 WWE superstar of all time. There's no doubt. But I do think he's probably not in the top 5, not even the top 1. So, but he's up there, and he's just well deserving of it. Number 7 on the list of the greatest WWE superstars of all time, John Cena. Number 6, The Undertaker. You know, you talk about the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, the Mount Rushmore of things, of sports. And when people try to do the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, I always say, well, no, you can't do that. You know, you, you know, like you can't say who's the greatest wrestler of all time because there's so many things that go into wrestling that you have to break them up. You're talking about like the drawing money part, right? You're talking about the in-ring performance part, right? You're talking about the promo ability. You talk about the gimmick or character that they have, right? And you're talking about the overall popularity and superstar known brand, the Q rating, so to speak, right? All that has to go into it, and some people rank on so many different places. But when you're talking about the Undertaker, he is, without question, a top gimmick of all time. The Dead Man is truly amazing, and you know And I think one of the things that I like, I think we all like, is that he changed his gimmick up a little bit. Now, I'm not one of these people who said like the Undertaker that was before the American Badass was bad, because it wasn't. You know, it wasn't. If people were talking about, well, he didn't sell anything, or he did all he did zombie stuff, well, that's what he was supposed to do. You don't get that? That's what it was supposed to be. You're supposed to be like this kind of undead character, this impervious to pain type of entity. And then he went to the American Badass, and then so when he came back to being the Undertaker, the Headman character, he did change it up a little bit to modernize it, and I think it worked great. But I think just like how Roman Reigns, he just couldn't be the tribal chief, character from the beginning. I don't think Undertaker could have been the greatest striker of all time that he was. He couldn't be that. He had to go through his phases to get to that. And I think that's incredible. And with a tremendous gimmick, he is truly an amazing talent. And yes, the fact that he stayed in character for so many years is truly awesome. And he's one of the greatest of all time. He's number 6 on the list of the greatest superstars in WWE history. He is The Undertaker. Number 5, Hulk Hogan. Now, some people may say, well, why wouldn't, Hogan's 5? Really? You're really going to put Hogan at 5? Well, I think so. And again, I try not to let my bias come into this, because of some of the stuff that has happened with Hogan, of, how he feels about, black people dating his daughter, how he feels about, the people who want to run this country. So I try not to let my biases of that get into this. But I do think he's without question one of the people that, he's the main person that I think put wrestling on the map. It was Vince and him. Hulk Hogan was incredible. And I think that's why he's on this list, and he is still a name today. Despite what you want to say, people hear the name Hulk Hogan, and and they still, at least half the country, they still get excited. They still get known. It's a lot. He has gone through a lot of things, and he is at this point in time not well liked by many of the wrestling universe. But I don't think we can count out that without him, there probably isn't a wrestling to go to. Without him, there isn't a WWE. Without him, there isn't a lot of things to happen for us in this wonderful world of pro wrestling. So, and we got to give him credit for that. And he's number 5 of the top 10 WWE superstars of all time. and it's Hulk Hogan. Number 4, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Now, why does Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels go ahead of Hulk Hogan? Why is he even the Heartbreak Shawn Michaels kid? Is he the superstar? Well, you have to go back to the 90s. You go back to the 90s, and that run he had from 90s, 95, mid 95 to late 97 when he turned babyface. He was it. He was on a lot of places. He was, he was on the Jenny Jones show. He was on this talk show. He was on that talk show. He was on MTV. He was everywhere. He was everywhere. He posed for Playgirl magazine. He was everywhere, and he was a superstar. He was well known, and maybe the back injury that took him out for 4 years. His reacquaintance with religion maybe took away his superstar and stopped him from doing maybe a lot of things that that he was doing in the past that would have kept him as a superstar when he came back. But many people say that his second run was better than his first run. And he is truly amazing. He is the greatest in-ring performer of all time, as I had on my list yesterday. You got to be somewhere in the WWE Superstars list. I think he is well deserving. Shawn Michaels, number 4 on the WWE Top 10 Superstars of all time list. Number 3, Roman Reigns. Yeah, not on my list in the last one in 2016 because he was just getting started, and he was just getting in there. But the WrestleMania main events, I mean, he's main evented WrestleMania in some form or fashion. I think it's been since the last decade. Going back to WrestleMania 31, which was the Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. He has main evented WrestleMania 8 shows, 8 of those 10 shows. Right? He did not main event 35. That was the women, and that was him coming back from the leukemia diagnosis. So he took off there. He did not main event in 2020 when we had the COVID. He wanted to go home due to COVID, but he's main event everything like that. And then when we talk about the 2-night WrestleManias, he's main event last year. He main evented both nights of WrestleMania, and it was just announced on Friday that he's going to main event one of the nights of WrestleMania this year as well. He's a tremendous star. He has become one of the pillars of this industry. When it comes to the new metrics and the new ways of drawing, when we were talking about the YouTube numbers, the streaming numbers, the clicks and the likes and the views, he is without a doubt the biggest draw in professional wrestling there's ever been. It's Roman Reigns. And even though he's not maybe known that much nationally, maybe in the mainstream or anything like that, he's still one of the biggest stars that you've ever seen in this business that WWE has ever had. And it's amazing that it's come through this. And it's really just because of the last, it goes back to this last decade, but in particular, it's the last 5 years. This last run has been amazing. Amazing cinema, amazing, work, amazing everything. Well deserving on this list. The top 10 WWE Superstars of all time. Roman Reigns. Number 2, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, in the last list, the first prayer list, I had the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, ahead of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I think that was my bias for Shawn Michaels ahead. I think when it comes down to it, yes, we were talking about the old school ways of drawing, with the attendance and the money and things like that. Yeah, it's Stone Cold. He's the biggest draw in the business has ever had, and in the old way of doing it, right? Um, and yes, he was just as big a star as anybody in the 90s. He was always on shows on MTV, on Jay Leno, The Tonight Show, on doing appearances here, doing appearances there. He was the biggest thing that you have ever seen, and he was hot, and he could do anything. His eyes and ears were always following Stone Cold Steve Austin. And it was absolutely incredible to watch. And when he had to retire because of the neck injuries and things like that, he kind of stayed out of the thing. He did the old commissionership type thing for maybe a year on WWE television, but he didn't quickly pretty much went back and went back home and things like that. Now he's a cat dad, if so to speak. I shouldn't even say that. He's a kind of a cat owner. He's got a cat on the Broken Skull Ranch, and I see him on TikTok. I think there's on Instagram videos, and it's always funny. That big burly man loves cats. And I gotta tell you this: if Stone Cold Steve Austin can love cats, anybody can love cats. Cats better than dogs. Bite me. But yeah, he's just a tremendous talent. And number 2 on this list of the greatest superstars of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that means number 1 is The Rock. He was number 1 on my list last time. He's number 1 on my list this time. I just think he's just cemented his spot on this list with the recent stuff that he has been doing, with the Final Boss the past year. Amazing. Now, I know a lot of people, including myself, have, seen him kind of dip in popularity, in the past couple years. Some of it his fault, some of it not his fault. I would never understand why people get so mad at him and Oprah for putting together a thing to try to help the people of Hawaii out. People are so mad that that these two multi-millionaires, in the Oprah case maybe even a billionaire, asking the normal folks for money to help out Hawaii. Why couldn't you do it, right? And this is why this is so hypocritical. We had some tragedies this past year, right, with the fires out of Los Angeles, the hurricanes on the East Coast, and when people asked for money for them, nobody said a word. Nobody said a word about any of the superstars or any of the celebrities asking to help out your fellow man there. But we're gonna get mad at Oprah and The Rock for asking the people to help out their fellow man in Hawaii. Yeah. It was bullshit then. It's bullshit now. You mad at The Rock and Oprah for that? Then you're stupid. You're dumb as hell. But there have been some things come out that kind of worry people, myself included, about The Rock. Is he starting to become Hogan-esque in maybe some of the stories that he tells? From anywhere from over exaggeration to just flat out lying about things. Is he falling too much into the political and not like the politics, but the political thing behind the scenes of wanting to do things in the business, and nah, that don't fit well for me, brother. Trying to take Cody's spot. Last year at WrestleMania, this year wanting Cody Rhodes to turn heel. Is that happening? I'm not sure, but when it just comes down to pure superstardom, there's been no bigger star than The Rock. And before, the stuff happened with him and everything, and he seemed to have been in a slump. His movies always made money. He was the highest grossing, actor for years. Movies always made money. Movies were always relatively well reviewed, except Baywatch, and he jokes about that one. His movies were always seen. He was all his movies. Like I used to have a thing on here. When I did I still do movie reviews, but my thing was that I'm only gonna go see movies that were superhero movies, the Fast and Furious movies, and movies that starred Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, it's just a little funny thing about that. I've never gone to a movie theater that started Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because at that time, at that time I said that, I was telling something, and my money was starting getting a little bit lighter, and I couldn't go to the movies, and then the whole thing happened where I had to move down to North Carolina to be with my family, and I couldn't go to the movies then. And as I have come back now to Chicago, and I'm starting to get back to going to the movies, he has not put out any movies for me to go out to, or there are movies that, they're Moana, or Red Note, or whatever it is, Red Notice, or whatever it was. Some movies that I don't want to see, so it's kind of interesting, but yeah, he was right there in the mid-90s, in the Attitude Era with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the most popular superstar there was. He did go everywhere. He was on MTV. He was on the Night Show. He was on this show. He was on that show. He did Larry King live even once. Why, I have no idea, but he did Larry King live. And he quickly transitioned from wrestling to movies. And when he went to the movies, he went and he didn't look back. And some people, including John Cena, didn't like that. I thought he was, turning his back on wrestling, but I think it's always been a part of him, a part of his business, and now that he is, back a little bit as his final boss character, and we had some hiccups this year. We had some hiccups this year at the beginning of the year with the January Netflix, and then the NXT stuff, and obviously the thing coming back trying to get Cody's soul. But the heel turn of John Cena was amazing, and it was epic. And if this was the plan, going back to the night at Bad Blood where he came out and he did the throat slit gesture, and he held up the number 3, but he held it up in the way that John Cena does his hand signal, which is like the OK signal, and he did it that way. And if that was the thing where it was all along supposed to be John Cena, which it doesn't look like it was, because like I said, he wanted Cody to turn heel. But even back then, if that was maybe his backup plan, whatever it was, tremendous and masterful, and you can't give him credit for that. He's the greatest superstar in WWE history, I think, without question. The biggest name this professional wrestling has ever seen, and that's without a doubt, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So really quickly, some people may take a look at here and say, well, and there are a lot of people messing. There's Kurt Angle. He was on your in-ring performance list. He's not on this one. Bret Hart. How could Bret Hart now be a top 10 superstar of all time, right? Triple H, The Game. Is he not on this list now? You could maybe make an argument for Vince McMahon himself, a WWE superstar. Is he not on this list? And then even the older guys from the older generations, Bruno Sammartino. Then you could say there's no Roman Reigns, there's no John Cena, there's no Rock, there's no Austin, there's no Hogan, without there being a San Martino. Maybe the first WWE Superstar ever. And I understand that. I don't want this list to be like the black BET wrestler list, right? Where all of the black wrestlers, right, were from 2009, other than Junkyard Dog and Ron Simmons. You know, there was no Ernie Ladd, there was no Bobo Brazil, there was no Bearcat Wright or any of the other legends that probably should have been on this list. I don't want that list to be like this, right? But I also just think that maybe, there's a little bit different. It's like this, like Wilt Chamberlain isn't on my top 10 basketball players of all time list. And that's because he was bigger, he was stronger, he was bigger and stronger than everybody. He was 7'1" in a playing basketball in a game where the league average height was 6'5". It was him, it was George Mike, and it was Bill Russell, and it was maybe a few others that were kind of taller than everybody else. But everybody was around 6'4", 6'5", and shorter, right? And that's why he was averaging 50 and 20, during the season. But, and I always said, well, you can't be that big and that strong. And of course you should dominate. So that should make you a top 10 player. And maybe that's the way I feel about like Bruno. There was nobody else like Bruno, so maybe of course Bruno was going to draw like that because there was nobody else doing it like Bruno. He didn't have a like Hogan went up against Ric Flair, for Crockett Promotions and Mid-South and all those places, right? Austin and The Rock were doing it against they were doing it against Hogan and Hall and Nash and again Ric Flair and all those guys. Lex Luger and Sting. So I'm not sure. You let me know down in the comment section if you think that I did wrong but not putting guys like Bruno and Buddy Rogers and Pedro Morales and Bob Backlund and all those other greats from the past. If I made a mistake about doing this list, maybe I'll rethink it and rethink that if you people think I did. And also, post comments down below. Tell me what you guys think about this list in general. Do you agree with it? Do you not? Do you have your own list? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.